Initiating recording. This is Cult Talks Conspiracy, Black-Eyed Children, Cultober episode number 1.
You're listening to a Cult Talk Network podcast.
File access granted.
Welcome, all you believers, idealists, skeptics, and all those who question the universe around them. I'm Bailey.
And I'm Ty, and this is Cult Talk Conspiracy, the Cultober kickoff. It's officially spooky season.
We're so excited.
Finally. Summer is in the books, thank God.
It's over.
We got another 6-7 months before that shit comes back around, and
Right.
I cannot be more happy to see it go.
I mean, the blistering devil's ball sack of the summer we just had.
Oh my God.
That was ridiculous.
Yeah.
I have never, I used to do CrossFit and I still haven't sweated in places that I sweated in this past summer. That was insane.
That was the worst. I'm ready for this nice, cool, crisp air, dead, dry leaves on the ground, morning dew, all that good stuff. Evening storms.
Oh my gosh, those are the best.
Yeah, I cannot wait. I mean, it's what it's all about. This is what we wait all year for.
Yes,
is for this season, and we finally got it. Fall is, especially here in Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
I think just the East Coast in general. We have such a nice fall season.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I've been all over the country and seen it in different seasons and whatnot. Nevada's the worst for fall. I'm not even gonna lie to you. It's the worst. It doesn't change. It doesn't change in the winter either. So people who are like, I love Christmas in Nevada. Well, yeah, pretty lights, no snow. But honestly, I'm to the point now where I just want to live somewhere where I can actually see the difference in seasons. And East Coast is that for me. You can just see the leaves change. And I mean, it's so beautiful. In Ohio, we have tons of valleys and mountains and hills and all that. And you can it's my favorite part is doing a long drive and then you can see the cascade of colors across.
Oh yeah. I love taking a nice country drive in the fall, especially going down Hocking Hills and stuff, and taking a little ride through there. That is primo.
That really is. We might need to do a Cult Talk Net trip out to Hocking Hills.
I would love to go out to Hocking Hills, just a little day trip out there, get some cider and all that cool fall shit. I love going to Hocking Hills.
Yes.
But we're kicking things off, Bailey. This is the first year that we've got to kick things off.
I mean,
we're the first episode.
I mean, it needs to be ours. I'm gonna front right now. Really, we are Cult Talks Conspiracy. We are queen and king of the spook. Just to give us the kickoff every year.
I don't know if that would fly.
No,
I think we all collectively love Cultober so much. I don't think that would fly.
I'm getting looks from the Cultober boys right now. Excuse the fuck out of you.
Cultober, if you guys don't know, is our annual celebration of all things Halloween across the board. Cult Talk Net. We all theme our episodes out for it. It's spooky stuff, it's scary stuff, creepy things, all that. And every Friday this year, we are going to be having a very special Cultober movie review of some classic horror films that we all love and have grown up with. And those come out every Friday on Cultober Plus, as well as on youtube.com/culttalknet. We're doing spooky things. Cult of Lore is doing spooky things. There's going to be a bunch of little tricks and treats we're sprinkling out throughout the month here, little bonus episodes and whatnot. So keep your eyes out for those. But Bailey, what are you doing to kick things off for Cultober 4?
Dude, we're talking about literally the creepiest thing I've ever encountered in my entire life. And that is Black-Eyed Children.
Boom. A child.
Ooh.
No.
I know very little of Black-Eyed Children.
No shit. Very little. My gosh. Where did I first hear about? I don't even remember where I first heard about Black-Eyed Children, but as soon as I heard about it, I was like, is this at first I really thought it was a conspiracy pasta. I did not think these things were real and that people had actually seen them, but no, I was wrong. These things are out and about and they're out living their lives, man.
I've seen the artwork. I've seen the artwork of them and things like that. But yeah, I've never really dove into what it all entails. But I know there's a lot of people that have genuine fear of these things.
It's in that category of things that people like have had experiences with, and they have no idea what it is that they are experiencing, but they just have this innate fear of whatever it is that is standing in front of them, and like an intuition sort of fear. Like I think we've talked about it a little bit before, where we've talked about it's like ingrained fear, like
Is
generational.
is it kind of like on like the same level as like Men in Black?
Yes.
Okay, it's kind of a similar thing to that. So that's kind of what I've always like seen. Like when I see pictures and artwork of the Black Eyed Children, it seems very Men in Black esque.
We're actually going to talk a little bit about the Men in Black as well. So I'm actually really excited that you brought that up.
Oh, well, the Black Eyed Children grow up to be Men in Black.
I would not be. I wouldn't be shocked, to be honest with you. I really wouldn't. I wouldn't be shocked if they were like
Is
working
that like the
together.
Pokemon evolution? Like the Black Eyed Children evolve
They become
into
Men
Men
in
in
Black.
Black? Yeah.
I mean, maybe it wouldn't shock me. It wouldn't shock me if there's like the Men in Black sector of the government and then the Black Eyed Children sector of the government. That wouldn't shock me at all.
Well, are you ready to unseal? Are you ready to get
I'm
things
so ready.
going for Cultober? We're venturing out. We're kicking off this event that we all love. Is our longest running event within the Cult Talk Net group. It's something we all look forward to. We plan basically as soon
Oh,
as Cultober ends. We're already in the planning process for the next one.
oh yeah, it's
Um,
all year long.
it really is. Like we really do love this event. We put a lot of work into it. It's kind of our like our Christmas, our big event. This is what we build to all year is Cultober. And Bailey, you're kicking it off. Are you ready?
I'm so ready. Let's do it. Well, without any further ado, Ty, you're going to kill me.
What's up?
I didn't hit record on the Zoom.
Oh, you
You're-
bitch.
I'm so
I
sorry.
thought you hit record on it.
But I did too. I could have sworn I hit record on it. I just looked down and I like went to go, oh my God, that was such a good
Well, what you can do is, we have it on Riverside, so you might be able to do some splicing on it. So
Okay.
let's hit record now.
Without any further ado, let us unseal this file. Don't let them in. The Black-Eyed Children. In Abilene, Texas, year 1996, Brian Bethel was running around town running errands and paying bills. He stopped in a movie theater parking lot to write out a check for his next run. As he wrote out this check, he would look up to find two children standing in his window of his driver's seat. They had to be between the ages of 9 and 12 years old, and the younger looking one of the boys had an olive toned skin complexion and curly hair. The other older looking boy was paler, freckled, and had red hair. They both wore hooded sweatshirts that obscured the appearance of their faces until they had both looked up.
Bailey, I have no idea how you and that dog are so in sync, but this is my own personal conspiracy.
They had both looked up. And what Brian found was that their eyes were not simply being obscured by the light or the hoodie. They were completely black. Begrudgingly, Bethel rolled down the car window to make sure that the boys were okay. The younger boy told Bethel that they needed a ride to their parents' house in order to pick up money for tickets to see the new Mortal Kombat movie.
Good choice. Good choice.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
What year was this? 96?
96.
Oh, yeah, I've seen the first one. That's a good one.
The fact that he was writing out a check should have been
Yeah.
the go-to. Like, this is not the 20s. So this really took Brian Bethel off guard. Not only did these two kids appear out of nowhere, but the Mortal Kombat movie had already started playing. So when Bethel responded saying that the movie had already started, the second one of the older boys spoke. And this was when Brian Bethel began to feel this intense sense of dread come over him. The boys then began to press harder, insisting that Bethel give them a ride, and their monotone voices sounded like that of an automated answering machine, void of any emotion.
Wow. So like one of those like when you call in to make a payment or something like
Mhm.
that. Like
Yeah. Thank you for calling.
yeah.
Like, your payment is being processed.
That's creepy. I feel like I would immediately distrust someone if they opened their mouth and that came out of it.
Yeah, no, and I mean, the thing is like, and Brian's done multiple interviews on this, and he constantly goes back to the fact that these were young children. And I have nieces and nephews who are about that age, and when they talk, you can hear some sort of like emotion or flex in their
Mhm.
voice. And I mean, they're also still figuring out how to talk and use those flexations.
Right.
So it was just it. It's super unnerving the fact that they are able to speak so emotionless for being so young. So at this point, Brian was completely on edge and he began to start driving away. But as he did, the boys started to bang on the windows of his car and they finally displayed some emotion in their voices. It was anger.
Whoa.
Both the boys began to yell, "We can't come in unless you tell us it's okay." And then after the rapid percussion of bangs, they cried, "Let us in." Brian drove away from the boys and the theater, and after reaching some distance, he looked back to find that the boys had vanished, like they were never even there to begin with.
Wow. So so that's kind of like a common thread is this
Mhm.
kind of like that's like vampire
Yeah,
mythology, right?
right.
With
Yep,
the you have to be invited in.
yep, yep. That's like the big thing with them is like if they are not granted entry, they will start to press the subject extremely hard and become extremely agitated
Wow.
in order to get in and gain access. So this story is kind of what has coined the term black eyed children.
So this is like the first
This is the first one.
like widely spread
Mhm.
I guess encounter.
Yes, absolutely. Was Brian Bethel's story. So he was actually a journalist from Abilene, Texas. And he not only wrote about his encounter, but he also shared it in originally what was a private email group, which quickly leaked and became the legend of the Black Eyed Children. So he was not planning on publicly coming out about this. This was in a private email group, like I stated, and it was basically to find out if anyone had experienced any other creature like this, or if anyone had ever heard about this. And unfortunately, it leaked, and Bethel has kind of made lemonade out of lemons, and he's gone on to speak about his encounter numerous times through numerous interviews, podcasts, blogs, other articles that have been written. Um, and he talks every single time about this intense feeling of dread and fear during his interaction with the black eyed children.
It's really interesting as widely spread as this kind of like piece of folklore is. It's really interesting. It's as new as the '90s. Like
Oh, yeah.
it's not this thing that's not. Well, I guess maybe if you look further in history, you might be able to find more similarities to these. But I mean, it's interesting that it really became popular in the '90s.
Oh, yeah. Definitely in American culture, it became very popular in the 90s. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about British history, and that goes back into the 80s. There's also a tribe, I believe, in South Africa that was also haunted by black eyed children that we're going to touch on a little bit. And their legends and lore of the black eyed children go back for generations. So it really just kind of depends on where you're at in the world on when you hear about the black eyed children.
Okay.
But a question that stuck out to me after hearing Brian Bethel's encounter was, what if he had let the kids into his car? What would have happened?
It's
And
creepy to
unfortunately,
think about that.
it
Like it
really
really
is.
is. Like it's creepy to think like in that kind of situation, what if you would have just been like, yeah,
Yeah.
sure, get in. Like, would we even have heard about it? I mean,
Right. Yeah. Cause like me, I have a very big like heart for children. Even though they can be annoying little shits. Not even gonna lie. Like I get it. Your little Timmy is a
uh,
precious little cucumber, but I mean he is also annoying at times. So it's fine. But like if I had seen two children that were like clearly in need, like I don't know if I would have been able to just go away, like despite my feelings. Also, I have probably never experienced that type of intense dread and intense fear. But the question still remained, what would have happened? And unfortunately, a couple in Vermont would find out exactly what would happen if you let the black eyed children in.
oh,
So this couple chose to remain anonymous, so they're going to be known as husband and wife, and of course, like the associating pronouns. So a woman in rural Vermont was woken up in the middle of the night by the sound of banging on her door. This was not only worrisome because of the time, but her and her husband lived in an isolated home on a dirt road in rural Vermont. This also happened to be during the middle of a winter storm, which Vermont is hallmarked for its intense snowy winters. So, like the snowy, like white Christmas postcards, like a lot of those are like Vermont. Thinking a driver may have been in an accident up the road, which had happened before in the past, she peered out the window and couldn't see that there were any tracks in the snow or either footprints or tire tracks.
Okay. So there's nothing there, like nothing to show that someone had walked up.
Right. There's nothing indicating that someone was like right there. But she did notice that the front light was on. And this light also operated as a motion detector as well, because it would only turn on if motion was in its range. So someone was standing at the front door. Not knowing what to do, she woke her husband, and as the banging continued, he opened the door. He would find two children looking at the ground, a boy and a girl, maybe 9 or 8 years old. They were not dressed for the weather conditions, and in fact, their clothes seemed kind of dated as well as their hairstyles. They wouldn't look up and make eye contact with either the wife or the husband, and something about these kids did not seem right to either one of them. When the husband asked the children if everything was okay, they replied asking if they could come inside. This took both the husband and wife even more off guard. The husband then asked the children where their parents were. The children, still looking down, said that they would be there soon. It was the middle of the night, and given the frigid conditions, the husband and wife could only assume that the children had been in an accident and were separated from their parents. So, despite the instinct they both had to not let these children into the home, they invited the children in.
Kind of that like soft spot, even though
Yeah.
you're unsure.
Yeah, because
It's still
it's like,
it's a child in the snow.
right. And you could probably think like you're being silly too. Like it's the middle of the night, you're just waking up, you're groggy, these kids without parents show up. Maybe they're scared, maybe, something's going on and they're just not acting right. So I mean, you could give a lot of concessions for
You don't have
why.
to deal with two dead kids on your front doorstep in the morning. That might be something.
Yeah, like let's not do
frozen
that.
to death in the morning.
Now, if it's Ben and I, we're leaving those fuckers out there. But like, show me your eyes, kid.
Yeah.
So after the children had settled onto the couch, the husband sat in the chair across from them while the wife went into the kitchen to make some hot cocoa for the kids. The husband began to ask the children how far they'd walked from their parents and if their car was broken down or had wrecked. The children just repeated that their parents would be there soon, and they also spoke in monotone voices and sat completely still. Ty, are you ever around kids?
No, not really. I try to stay away from them. I don't
I
enjoy
choose
the
not
company
to.
of kids. Yeah, I don't enjoy
They don't
the
sit still.
loudness, the smells, the stickiness. I don't enjoy any of that stuff that
They
kids
don't
bring
sit
to the
still.
table.
No, they don't sit still for even like a hot second. Like even like I've raised dogs. Like you give them food, they'll sit still for a little bit. That
Right.
doesn't work with kiddos. Like they're like nope. So the fact that they were just like not speaking with any emotion, they're sitting completely still, and like again, you can give them some credit and be like maybe they're scared, maybe something's happened.
Yeah, because even like the
Traumatized.
emotionless thing, that can be like a psychological thing, like
Yeah.
autism or Asperger, something like that. I mean,
Yeah.
that could be a result of that. So even then, you kind of like rationalize it a little bit.
Psychopathy.
Yeah.
Sometimes they don't have emotions in their voice. It's fine. Like they don't know how to express their emotions.
Have you ever seen what is that movie called? It's got Stephen King. It's kind of like it's got like Black Eyed Children. It's a Stephen King movie. What is it called? It's got Superman in it.
I think Jeff showed us this movie, and I was trying to think of what it was while I was in the shower this morning because I remember the black-eyed child popped up, and like before I even realized it was a black-eyed child, I looked at Jeff and I said, "Is this a black-eyed child? This is displaying black-eyed child behavior." And then the kid looked up and it's got black
Is
eyes.
it?
And I'm like, I fucking called it, man. Fucking called it.
I just watched it like very recently too because I bought it on DVD
It's a
because
good
I'd wanted to
movie.
watch it. It is called. I'm almost there. It's got Christopher Reeves in it. Village of the Damned. That's what it is. Yeah,
Yes.
Beware of the Children. Yeah, because those kids have like those same tendencies where they're talking monotone, and I think they have black eyes as well. But yeah, that's a creepy flick. But the kids have like all these characteristics, and that came out. I mean, the book came out way sooner than the movie, but it's not a Stephen King movie or book. It's a John Carpenter movie that came out in '95, but it's based on a movie from the 1960s as well. So yeah, that like predates these things.
Yeah, nice. Love it. So when the wife walked into the living room with hot cocoa in hand, she noticed that her husband had his head in his hands, and she immediately asked him what was wrong. He said that he started to feel dizzy all of a sudden, but that he would be fine. And the husband and wife were an older couple, and all of the excitement of the night may have just started to catch up with him. So the wife turned and gave to give the children their hot beverages. After being assured that her husband was okay, she offered the mugs to the children, and they finally looked up to meet the wife's face. She was stunned. Their eyes were completely black. The wife gasped in shock at the sight, and the children then asked if they could use their restroom. Almost stammering in response, the wife replied yes and told them it was down the hall. The children then turned to walk into the bathroom together. And after they'd left the room and the door was closed, the wife turned to her husband and asked in a hushed tone if he saw their eyes as well. He did. And before they could go into any more detail, his nose began to bleed. He'd never suffered nosebleeds before, and this was something that was totally new for them. Not even during severe allergy seasons or sickness or anything like that had he had nosebleeds, which I get nosebleeds when I get really bad sinus infections.
Okay.
And this can also be a sign of internal bleeding as well. Nosebleeds can.
Could be something too. Like I know we talked back in Dyatlov Pass about that, like supersonic, like subsonic, like sound, like fucking with people,
like the tones and everything. Yeah. And that actually, I was reading a little bit about that. That actually causes like brain hemorrhaging, which you can get nosebleeds with brain hemorrhaging as well because all the blood has to go somewhere. So
I know you like bleed out the ears that's like something common with that.
Severe cases, you'll start tearing blood.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it's insane. It's gross. So, with never having these nosebleeds before, and on top of the earlier dizziness, this started to become even more worrisome. So, the wife ran into the kitchen to grab her husband some tissues. And as she grabbed them, the power goes out.
Nope.
Now I'm done. Now these fuckers are getting out of my house.
Too much of a coincidence.
This is too much. I'm finished. So she then heard her husband yell for her from the living room. She began to walk back towards the room to meet her husband, but she was stopped in her tracks by the two children standing at the end of the hall, motionless, in the dark, just staring back at her. I'm done! I'm so done.
Yeah. I've seen horror movies.
Yeah, I'm done. Side note, I had a guy, like this has been several months ago now, I had a guy ask me to help him get something into his van and he had a cast on.
Jesus Christ.
And I literally kept walking and I said, no, thank you, Ted Bundy. So like, if Ted Bundy's listening to this, I don't fuck around like that. I'm sorry you were injured, but I'm not risking it. My job is to come home.
Well, too, like where like the Chillicothe, like I think they've had people get abducted. Well, we have like Chillicothe has a pretty big history of fucking women ending up dead. So yeah,
I think Chillicothe 6 or 7 is what we have.
Yeah, two separate documentaries about it. You can find on I think Lifetime and TLC. I think
one's got to be on Tubi by now.
Yeah, I'm sure they are.
So the boy would actually be the one to speak first, and they said that their parents had arrived. The children began to walk past the wife to the door and then walked out, leaving the door wide open behind them. The husband, despite his nosebleed and dizziness, rushed over to the door to close it behind them, almost completely falling over in the process. The husband and wife then watched from the window as the two children walked to a black car at the end of the driveway. Two very tall men dressed in black suits stood outside the car, motionless. The husband waved at the men from the window, but they only stared back at him. After the children were in the car, the two men then boarded and drove away. It was about a half an hour before the power would come back on, and the husband and wife so unnerved that going back to sleep would not be an option for this night.
It's like the men in black came to pick up their kids. It's
They really did.
wild.
They were like, no, come here. Like, no, come here.
That is wild.
Oh, man. So after this encounter, the wife stated that her husband's nosebleeds became more frequent and on a regular basis. Her husband would later be diagnosed with an aggressive form of skin cancer, which doctors believe he will recover, but still cannot explain the cause of the diagnosis. You see, her husband had never been exposed to any sort of thing that could cause that aggressive form of skin cancer. He didn't work on an outside job. He didn't tan regularly. He really didn't do anything. And, cancer can be caused by any number of form of things, but the trademarks for this form of skin cancer that it would be caused by, weren't there. So the husband would not be the only one that was affected by this. Shortly after the incident, the wife also began to experience nosebleeds and dizzy spells. She described this as being the worst condition she had ever been in her entire life. The husband and wife believe that the cause of all of this misfortune is a direct result of allowing the black-eyed children into their home. And they have gone on this story has been shared so many times.
I can see why. I mean, it's creepy. Like it's like a legitimate, like a scene out of like a horror movie.
It really is, though. I kind of want to film a short to this.
Yeah, I could definitely
do it that way. So one thing that I did find is radiation sickness. Its symptoms actually include headaches, dizziness, disorientation, as well as internal bleeding. And long-term effects can actually result in cancer. So I bring that up because we really do have strong similarities to the Men in Black. And if they picked up their fucking kids.
That's what it sounds like to me.
It really does. Like, we've got the car, we've got the suits, we've got the
Was it
whole
a sedan? Isn't that what it is? A
trademark.
sedan?
It didn't say. It didn't say. I was really looking for it because I'm like, please say a Cadillac. Please say Cadillac. So similar to Men in Black, people who have encountered black-eyed kids feel extremely uneasy and unnerved despite the lack of physical appearance of a threat. Like I said, it's like that intuition, like, you don't need to be around this right now. Like, you need to get out of this. They also speak in very monotone voices, and some reports also suggest that, like the Men in Black, some black-eyed children appear to be wearing makeup in order to darken their skin tone. So that may have been what happened with our first story, where one was extremely pale and the other one had an olive tone skin complexion. It also could just be their skin tone. I don't know. But that was a very interesting similarity that I found that was not normal.
Yeah.
So numerous movies play on our innate fear of creepy children. Let Me In, The Omen, Children of the Corn, The Exorcism, The Shining, all tap into this fear. Now, Black-Eyed Children Let Me In is a 2015 film by Justin Snyder, who self-starring as well, who embarks on a journey to investigate black-eyed children.
Is that what was it called again?
Black-Eyed Children Let Me In.
Oh, okay.
Now, Snyder and his team would explore firsthand accounts of those who have seen the black-eyed children and consult paranormal experts. This would result that the documentary would turn into a found footage that would change the lives of all who not only experienced the documentary, but who viewed it as well. Black-Eyed Kids by T. Dan Hopkins follows a small-town sheriff that is haunted by his childhood encounter with black-eyed kids, and who once again come face to face with this evil as they embark on his town. Why is this so creepy? Why do we find children so creepy in our psyche, especially if they're evil? Because I feel like evil adults, we can kind of we can kind of understand and be like, they're adults, they've gone through some shit. But when it's a child, there's something that is just so extremely unnerving. And I think it's because we sort of as a society see children as like this pure thing that just need to be protected.
Mhm.
So when we find that a child is bad or evil or, just sort of possessed or anything like that, it becomes extremely terrifying to everybody involved, except for the kid. The kid's having a great fucking time. Little Timmy is
Uh,
having a rockin' time. So I do wonder if our fear or if our inclination for black eyed children to be demons comes from the historical and cultural intuition from this. Because in demonology, it's actually known that demons will use children to lure adults into giving up their soul willingly. What was the movie? Annabelle.
Annabelle. Okay.
Annabelle. Yeah, oh my God, I can't even think of the demon's name in Annabelle.
I don't watch those movies, so I'm not sure.
I'm so upset with myself right now. I love those movies. But the demon in that uses the baby to get the mother soul, because the big thing in demonology is the soul has to give up the person has to give up their soul willingly.
Willingly. Okay. So they got to like kind of coax out of them.
Right. Yeah. So babies can't give up their soul willingly, but adults can. So if you can trick the adult into thinking that I'm going to take your baby soul unless you give me yours, bada bang, bada boom, got a soul for you. And demons are also more likely to target children as they are pure from sin and sometimes can be tricked or more easily coaxed. So that's kind of what happened in the exorcism as well. It played into that where Reagan was using a Ouija board and got into all this stuff, thought she was making a friend. It wasn't a friend. It was something really, really bad and evil. I have always been like really fascinated with demonology as well. I found that out like very, very early on, just because it's interesting. I want to know how the evil things think. So, what are black eyed children and what is the science behind black eyed children, if any? So, as far as their appearance goes, these kids are said to be anywhere between the ages of 8 and 16. We have even had some reports of them looking as young as 6 years old. So, these creatures have been reported to be hitchhiking, panhandling, or, like in our earlier story, even showing up on people's doorsteps. Basically, they need to look like they are in some sort of trouble and are needing some sort of help. So they have been reported to be wearing anything from mute modern clothes all the way to more colonial dress and hairstyles.
I think that would be creepier too, like a little colonial kid showing up on your
Oh
doorstep.
no. Mm-mm.
Yeah, that would definitely creep me out more than I think just a regular kid coming up.
Oh yeah. If it were a colonial kid, I'm not going near you. Like, get the fuck away from me. Stay away from me. I don't fuck with you. Be gone, demon. So the children also always appear to be in pairs or trios. And most likely at night, and they also tend to be seen around wooded areas. So that would really explain in our second story how they came up in the woods. The pair in Brian Bethel's story, very isolated, remote area, not a whole lot of people around. So there are numerous tales of black-eyed children. Some claim that they're aliens, some say that they're demons, or even vampires.
I was gonna say like that really like caught my attention. The whole like they have to be invited in because I remember like that's like a big part of vampire lore. Like I know in Lost Boys, that's like they have to let the guy in. Like he has to be invited and all that stuff. Like I know that's like a very big cornerstone in that mythology.
Have you ever seen the movie Let Me In?
No, I haven't seen that.
You got to watch it. Throughout writing this entire file, I was like, "This is Let Me In right here. This is the movie Let Me In," and that movie scarred me for life. I to this day have only watched it all the way through once, and I don't need to watch it again. That's fine. I just can't stand when they're trying to drown the boy. I can't. I know she saves him, but like I can't take it. I just can't. Baby boy screaming, I can't do it. But The black-eyed children in Canuck Chase made real-life connections in the 1960s. This town made headlines for the setting of one of the largest police investigations in British history. 3 local schoolgirls had been murdered, and the hunt for the killer was on. Also known as the Babes in the Ditch murders, these 3 girls were between the ages of 5 and 7. Raymond Leslie Morris would be arrested for the attempted abduction of an intended 4th victim in November of 1968. Since then, Cannock Chase has been a hotspot of sightings for black-eyed children, even in 2021 when a young couple went camping and caught a little girl in the woods.
Caught her?
Like, caught sighting of her.
Oh, okay. I mean, it's like trapped a little girl.
They just trapped her.
Yeah.
This is an abduction story.
Like a bear trap or something.
Yeah, they put a little like soul in the little trap, and we're like, here you go, little black-eyed child, come here. So a young couple, Kylie and Ben, were camping that summer when they claimed to hear ghostly girl giggling outside of their tent. When they looked outside, they saw that this girl was moving in, quote, ways a human simply could not move, end quote. And she was doing this in order to hide behind the trees.
Okay.
So terrified, they began to hear the giggling get louder and louder until all of a sudden it sounded like it was completely around them. And keep in mind, throughout this entire time, they're looking at the little girl. They can see that she's not moving at this point. She is staring motionless at them. Dead of night, they can see this girl. There's giggling all the way around them. And I can kind of understand that if it's loud enough or if the area is sort of like concaved enough, sound can travel in ways to where it sounds like things are all over you. And your mind can play tricks on you like that.
Oh, yeah. Especially when you're in the forest. Yeah. In the night.
Oh, yeah.
There's sound everywhere.
So after a moment, the girl would adjust her shoe and then she would run off to a nearby path through the dense trees. And Kylie and Ben would go back into their tent and wait until sunrise. Also, no sleep for them. As soon as the sun was up, Kylie and Ben went outside their tent to find piles of stones evenly placed or evenly spaced throughout the perimeter of their tent, as well as strange stick formations hanging from the surrounding trees like dream catchers.
Oh, it reminds me of Blair Witch.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what I was
exactly what I thought of.
From Blair Witch.
Yep. The couple wasted no time in packing up their belongings and making the 15-minute hike back to Ben's car. As they made their way back, Kylie looked back to see a small child peering through the oak trees with completely black eyes. Ben shouted at the creature to leave them alone, and then the pair ran towards the car. As they looked back, they could not see the little girl anywhere.
So they're like pretty far out there, right? Like it wasn't.
Oh, yeah.
It was like, oh, Jesus.
It's not like someone could come up and just play a prank. Like that would have to be like a pretty in-depth prank for someone to pull. And I mean, what's the point? Like you're gonna put your little kid out there for I don't know. That one freaks me out because they're completely isolated. There's no other talk of any other campers being out there with them. This place is known for seeing one particular little girl. And it's kind of the legend around Canuck Chase that she is what do they call that? Like not a disturbed spirit, but an unrestful spirit because she was murdered, which can happen. There is a lot of lore and a lot of superstition around if someone dies in a very traumatic way or dies in a very violent way, their spirit cannot find rest until justice is met.
Interesting.
So that very well could have happened here. So maybe she's not a black-eyed child. Maybe she's just a vengeful spirit. New theories.
Yeah, I mean, it makes much sense than anything else, right? Because there really isn't any answers for it.
Nope, we don't know. So I wanted to find some diseases or some illnesses that could possibly cause eyes to go completely black like that, because we know that you can buy expensive contacts and you can do all of that showbiz stuff. in order to make your eyes completely black. However, and I don't know if this has changed in 2024. However, I know that those contacts that completely cover your eyes hurt like a motherfucker. Like
Oh,
you can only have them in for like a minute or so before they just completely start to burn your eyes. Which I mean, if some little kid can stand that, good for you, because I cannot. So I don't know. But what I did find was a very, very interesting disease called Peter Pan syndrome. Have you ever heard of this before?
no, sounds creepy though. Peter
It's
Pan
really
syndrome.
creepy.
Sounds
It's
creepy.
really creepy. So this is actually the desire in a child to kill adults around them or even children
Oh my
around them
god.
in attempts to reject their own future adulthood. So it's kind of like if I get rid of all of these people around me, like I'm not going to grow old. I'm not going to, you know, grow old or anything like that. And that's why it's called Peter Pan syndrome, because they don't really grasp the fact that you're not taking life away from somebody else and putting it into your own little
Hmm.
pocket. You're just killing people. So
So the idea is like I guess, are you taking their is so I guess what's the point in like taking like killing the adults is to
it's to reject
okay.
the own fact that they are going to become adults. So
Hmm.
um it's kind of like when I'm going to use this as a very crude example, but it's kind of like when gay men start killing other men to reject their sexuality.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. And that's a very crude example of that. And I will admit to that. So there's also medication and drug side effects that can cause extreme dilation of the pupils. And Arita, I'm not pronouncing that correctly, by the way. It's ANIRIDIIA.
You're pretty close enough.
I think so. I don't know. It's a big medical word. So this can actually make the eyes appear to have no iris, and it can give the appearance of the eye being completely black due to the pupil becoming so enlarged. And this is actually caused by a chromosome mutation. But the thing about that one is you can still see the whites in the person's eyes from that. So it just looks like you have like a really big pupil instead of like the whites going away. Um, Cocaine can also do that to
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Um, Another thing that I found, which if you do this to a kid, you deserve to go to freaking prison for the rest of your life, is you can actually tattoo the whites out of your eye.
Oh my god. No, thank you.
Yeah, no. Like there was one lady who has a mugshot and she's got like tattooed like her eyes. She like tattooed her eyes black and like there's no whites of her eyes or
No,
anything
thank you. I
anymore.
could not imagine.
So she
I
was
cannot
bang.
imagine like the healing process, let alone getting it
Oh my
done.
god.
Jesus.
I'm shocked that I mean, you can probably find stories, but I would be shocked if nobody's gone blind from something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds just terrifying. They even get even have the procedure sound just terrifying.
I can't even do LASIX. I don't know how anyone could just lay there and get like a tattoo needle poked into their eye
No.
50 million times.
No. So there's no way to look away from that.
No, no. Anything with the eyes, I can't stand. That's another reason why black eyed children freak me out, is because anything like I can't watch movies that do like needles in the eyes or anything like that. It freaks me out. I have to turn away. Like it's,
No.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, I can watch the most gruesome shit. You put a needle towards somebody's eye. I'm like, oh my God, don't do it. So, most recently in 2015, there was a drone sighting. I love me some
Drone
drone
sighting.
sightings.
Okay.
So, a 500-year-old tunnel system was discovered under the Mexico city of, Ty, how do I pronounce this? Puebla. It's a city.
Puebla.
Puebla.
Puebla. It's what Pueblo.
Pueblo.
Puebla.
Puebla. Thank you. I just didn't want to butcher that. So
Puebla.
I'm like, I want to be respectful. Don't make me do this. So this tunnel system was discovered and actually dates all the way back to 1531. And the interesting part isn't the discovery in itself, but it is the fact that elders actually told stories of this series of tunnels, which would lead to tales of mythical secret tunnels underneath the ground where they walked and More interesting, there were said to be bones of giants within these tunnels. Now, like I said, this came from a lot of urban legend that grandparents told great grandparents told grandparents and grandparents told their parents and the parents told their children. So when this was actually discovered, it was kind of like a, mind pop moment where it's like, oh my God, this thing that I thought was a complete urban legend is actually fucking real. It was like discovering Bigfoot. So it's very interesting because on this drone footage, not only did we see some of the tunnel system, we also caught a creepy little kid dressed all in white walking along the tunnel system.
Jesus. And
This
that's
is
like a video you can find, or
that is a video you can find.
my gosh.
It is fucking creepy. You can kind of see it, like the video I found like zooms in on the kid so you can see it, but like even from far, once you see like where it's at, you can see like this little white speck moving, and it's like, oh fuck, how did that get there?
Yeah. Jesus.
Because they didn't even know this place was in existence. Like this was very, very recently discovered that this place was actually real, and it shook this entire city.
Yeah. I could tell why.
And
Especially because it was something that was like kind of like a legend, right? Like you talk about
urban legend.
legend, and then it's kind of like validated those.
Oh yeah, like someone's grandpa cried that day and was like, "I knew it was real." Which, like, good for you, grandpa. Like, I'm happy for you. That was a good moment. So, what do you think of the black-eyed kids, Ty?
Creepy as hell. That's really creepy. Like, I definitely see a lot of parallels to like other urban legend, folklore type things.
Mhm.
Men in Black definitely stands out. I think even stuff like Slender Man and things like
Mhm.
that, you can kind of find parallels with whatever they are, whatever these little entities are. Um, I mean, it's creepy. It's a creepy urban legend. You think they're a cryptid? Do you count them along the lines of cryptids?
I think so. I think they're a cryptid. I don't think they're like a spirit or a demon or anything. And really, what sold it for me was the Vermont story, with the Men in Black.
That whole story, I think, is a good like a good reference for just like the legend in general. So
Mhm.
it kind of displays these. I don't know if you call them powers, but the
Yeah.
effects they have on humans.
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, the thing that really freaked me out was like, because I was looking at the symptoms he was having, and I'm like, this sounds like some sort of radiation poisoning. And we've heard of people who have had like experiences with aliens, or, even sometimes Men in Black have this sort of radiation sickness afterward. So when I looked up radiation sickness and I could see that these symptoms were matching, I was like, oh shit. Like something here is not right. And that's why I think it's more of a cryptid rather than a spirit or a demon. I could definitely see how they could be demons, and
Mhm.
maybe there's a different form of black-eyed children that are demons, but I'm going to lean more on the side of like cryptid. I don't think they're aliens. I really do think they are some sort of like creature.
And it's interesting, like the demon aspect. That's something that people theorize with the Men in Black as well.
Mhm.
People think they're like demons. I mean, I don't know. I think it definitely a cryptid. I think they would fall in that category. That's where they come from. I mean, it's interesting because like I can definitely see where aliens come from, especially with the black eyes, because
Mhm.
I know that's a big characteristic of like the Greys in particular, and
Yeah.
also the small stature too.
Mhm.
Like small stature, black eyes.
Yeah, and I
That
mean,
kind of on a surface level could be equated to like a gray, maybe in disguise or something like that.
yeah.
But to take the form of a child also shows like the ability, like they're preying on the human nature. I mean, because
Mhm.
you see a kid. I mean, no matter who you are, you see a kid, you're gonna have uh, you know like a certain feeling over you. Like you're gonna feel as though you need to protect them, or
Mhm.
I guess at least check on them. I mean,
Yeah.
and power persuasion, things like that. Because I mean, you're not going to leave a kid out in the cold. You're not
Mhm.
going to leave a kid out in the middle of the forest. Things like that. You're going to have that need to nurture, or, take care of them. So it's interesting that they whatever it is chooses that form.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, cuz like every mammal that I've encountered has like a very distinct need to protect their young.
Mhm.
And I think you're right. I think you're onto something there where it does feed into that intuition of we need to protect our young and we
Yeah,
need
that
to.
paternal instinct.
Yes, yes, absolutely. What would you do if you ever had a black-eyed child appear on your doorstep?
Probably shut the door, I think. I mean, it would be hard, especially after, like, I mean, because there's certain things. I mean, eventually you gotta kind of trust your gut. I mean,
Mhm.
I try to trust my intuition on things. And I mean, if you're getting this overwhelming feeling, but it is too, it's a kid. So I mean, that's the thing. Like even with the couple in Vermont, I mean, it's a snowstorm or whatever out there. I mean, either you shut the door on this, kid because you have a bad vibe, and then the next morning you wake up with two dead kids on your front doorstep,
Yeah,
and then you're answering questions from the cops of like, why didn't you let these kids in?
they were creepy.
Yeah, they were creepy. These two kids I let die because I was creeped out. So it's a hard thing. I feel like it's one of those things you really couldn't make a determination on until you're in that moment. Because it's easy to be like, oh no, fuck, I'd close the door, but then you put yourself in that in those shoes where it's a snowstorm, you open up and there's two kids,
Mhm.
alone. I mean, you can't just leave them out in the middle of in the snow. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's a thing. It's a lot easier to say that you would trust your gut, and close the door. But I think being put in that situation, it'd be a lot more complicated.
oh, yeah. Because I mean, there was a very recent case like last year where a little boy was being abused and showed up on someone's doorstep and was like, "Can I have a drink of water?"
Hmm.
And like that was fucking crazy. And I mean that is a real life example of a kid could show up on your front door in an emergency, and you really just have to play instincts on that. And it's like, what do I do here? Me, I would call the cops. I'd be like, you need to come here immediately and be my friend. So because I have no idea what this child has. I don't know if someone's following this child. I don't
Right.
know if this child's gonna come in and give me radiation poisoning. So I need you to come here.
Yeah, it's definitely just it's a very scary entity or entities, whatever they are,
Mhm.
because of that child aspect. I think that's an interesting form for whatever it may be to take. Um, and I think it definitely does show intelligence for sure because they are preying on that paternal instinct.
Oh
And
yes.
I don't know, it's very creepy. I could see aliens though. I
Yeah.
honestly could. I mean, the black eyes that but I do think the black eyes do um, seem pretty demonic as well.
Mhm.
I mean, that's something we've
It's
seen in
unsettling.
movies and things of that nature. Uh,
So unsettling.
yeah.
One thing that, as soon as you mentioned the grays that I didn't think about that I put together just right here as we were talking about it was the grays stand anywhere between 3 and 4 foot tall, and that's
Hmm.
about the height of a 8 to 12-year-old child
Yeah.
is that 3 to 4. So what if they're just putting on different skins?
Yeah, I mean that's something too. And greys are intelligent. They do permeate like a feeling of threat or dread because they are a malevolent entity. So I mean, I could kind of see that but it's too. It's like, what is the goal? Because they just kind of went in those people's house and like left,
Yeah.
you know. But then you think too, going in with the alien theory is the power going out. We've seen that. I've read different encounters of people who have encountered like UFOs or aliens. Their cars shut down or
Yeah.
their electro devices stop working.
There was one that we talked about in the Men in Black encounter last year. I think it was the Ingrid Cole.
That would have been the
Ingrid
first
Cole.
episode. That would have been the first
Yeah.
one back
Oh,
in
okay.
2022.
Okay.
Or yeah,
Nice.
2022. Yeah.
Because I think in that one we talked about how his car completely died
Yes.
while he was in the presence of the Men in Black. And then to go a step further, like it took 30 minutes for the power to get back on. Was that them getting out of range?
Right. Yeah. I don't know. It's interesting. I kind of lean toward aliens myself. But I think regardless, these are just really interesting creatures and cryptids. And I know that I've heard like they're big in like the Carolinas. I know I've heard a lot of things with the black eyed children in the Carolinas. And I think just like that area, that like southeastern corridor, I think has a lot of
Mhm.
black eyed children folklore.
Yeah. across the pond in the UK, they have a lot of black-eyed children sightings as well.
Okay.
So that I found very, very interesting because like you don't hear a whole lot of like cryptid or creepy stories from over the pond over there, but I did see some black-eyed children stories that were like, oh my
Now,
god.
did they also come around the 90s, or do they predate the US like
You know,
sightings?
I'm not gonna lie to you. I really thought they were creepy pastas, so I was like not paying attention to the dates and whatnot. But it was like 60s to 80s
Okay.
was what I was looking into. So, but like that's another thing with the Black Eyed Children is like I don't know if it's my own skepticism with it or if it really is like the way that the story is being presented sometimes. But I always only with the Black Eyed Children because you guys know that I want to believe in it so bad. I want it to be
Mhm.
real so bad. But with the Black-eyed children, I always lean on the side of skepticism. And I don't know if it's because of my own fear of it or if it's because, of the way that it's presented, or maybe this is like too creepy to be real. I don't know, but that's like my personal view on it. These
Interesting.
ones were fucking creepy.
So do you just don't want it to be real, kind of thing?
I don't think I want it to be
You don't
real.
want to
No.
believe, yeah.
I don't want to believe in black-eyed children.
Yeah.
Those are the ones I don't want to be real. Bigfoot,
Uh,
aliens, the fucking Mothman, like those can be real. Black-eyed children, no, I can't have that.
and it might be that maybe it seems like it's something that could happen, and
It really
you
is
don't want to like feed into that. Like you feel like it's something that could happen. Like someone could come knock, like some kid could come knock on your door,
and
and
who
then you're going to have to like question your instincts
I'm gonna have to
because
like I'm gonna get us all killed.
because I
Me,
mean like
Eric, and Ben all
if you think about the other cryptids like Bigfoot and things like that, you kind of know how you're going to react. It's a giant
right.
monster,
Mhm.
but a kid comes in, you don't want to like feed into that paranoia of, like I said, you leave like two kids out on your front doorstep to freeze to death.
Yeah.
And then all you have to, when you're questioned, you just have to, the only thing you can say is like, oh, I was creeped out because I read all these stories about, weird freak kids. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, it's one of those things you might just not want to be buying into it too much. You don't want it to come up later
Yeah, for
as like
real.
actually have to like debate this decision.
Like I'm sorry. Those kids died because of me.
Yeah, because
I was
you
pussy.
read some creepy pastas on Reddit. Uh, but no,
Correct.
this was interesting. This is a very I can definitely see why people have genuine fears of the black-eyed children because
Mhm.
it does prey on a lot of just our own human nature. And if they are real creatures or entities, demons, whatever you may believe, they are like definitely feeding on that. And I think that the fact they're taking the form of children shows like some intelligence, some malevolence. I think that they're preying on that human instinct.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. Whatever these things are, they know the weaknesses of us. And that can be even scarier is the fact that they know and understand our weaknesses.
Yeah, absolutely. It's Cultober season, horror movies. I would say if anyone is looking, I think check out Village of the Damned, the 1995
Oh
movie,
yes.
John Carpenter. You can't go wrong with John Carpenter. So,
No.
but yeah, that's a great one. And I think in that they're like aliens, if I remember correctly. I think they're aliens or like government experiments. I forget because I know there's like a lab, but I think they're aliens in Village of the Damned '95, and the old like '60s one. I think they're demons in that, but the '90s one, I think they're aliens. But you should definitely check that. I think it might be on Tubi, but I have it on
Everything's
DVD.
on
It's easy to
TV.
find on DVD, but yeah, I would definitely check that out if you're looking for something more on the Black Eyed Children. You want to like look into like some media of it. I would check that out. And you said there was a documentary. What was the documentary?
So this was Black Eyed Children Let Me In, a 2015 film by Justin Snyder.
Now, it's a movie or a documentary?
It's a mockumentary.
Oh, okay. Oh, I love
Yeah,
documentaries.
it's a mockumentary. So he actually does do like encounters with people who have seen Black Eyed Children, but then it goes into like a found footage where Justin and his team actually experience Black Eyed Child.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I'll check that
So
out.
it's kind of it's a slash kind of documentary slash mockumentary.
I
I
love
want to believe it's a mockumentary. So
I talked about
hopefully
that many a
Justin
times. I love mockumentaries. It's one of my favorite like genres that I don't think gets enough love, but
really
um,
does.
I love mockumentaries. But yeah, this was great. This is a good way to kick off Cultober because this is a creepy fucking stories. I mean, these black eyed children. These definitely I can see why a lot of people have fear of them. I mean, I would definitely be afraid if I was to encounter a black-eyed child. And I think the parallels with things like Men in Black and Slender
Mhm.
Man and vampires is super interesting. And even like we've talked heavily here in the last few minutes about aliens.
Yeah.
It's interesting how all these different aspects of the black-eyed children line up with these different
Mhm.
creatures, entities. So it's super cool. I think the Vermont story, that one definitely holds. I think that's probably the best encounter that
Oh my gosh.
showcases these beings.
It really does. And it has been shared so many times because this couple was straight up like, we don't want anyone else letting these kids into their house because of what's happened to us. And that story just, I heard it many years ago and like it has always stuck with me that just how terrifying that tale is and then the after effects of it. But I would like to know, our dear listeners, have you ever encountered a black eyed child?
Oh
And
yeah.
if so, what did you do? Did you let them in?
Well, they
Or
might not,
did
we might
you
not have heard from them. They might not be able to comment if they did. I'd like
I mean,
to know too, like where people think they're like, where do they think they are? I mean,
yeah.
aliens, demons, something else, orphaned Men in Black. I don't know,
Yeah.
but it's super interesting. I would be very curious to hear what our listeners think the black-eyed children are and where they come from. Leave us a comment here in the YouTube comments or shoot us a message over on Instagram at Cult Talk Net because we're always interested to hear what our listeners think. And this one's definitely a creepy one. So a good way to kick off Cultober. Cultober, of course, if you're not familiar, is Cult Talk Net's annual celebration of all things Halloween, our favorite season, our favorite month, our favorite time of the year, most magical time of the year, Cultober. And we're going to have special Halloween themed episodes across the board all month long. Cult of Lore, they're dropping their first Cultober episode here Thursday. If you're a fan of that podcast, check that out. They're doing a book review on the Night Lords trilogy. And if you like, you won't have to wait till the 15th to hear Bailey and I. Bailey and
Nope.
I will be over on Cultober Plus, our special dedicated Cultober feed, where we'll be talking about A Nightmare on Elm Street,
Ooh,
the 80s Wes Craven classic.
one of my
We're going to be
favorites.
talking about that. So make sure you guys check out Cultober Plus. It is a packed feed, for 3 years of content on there.
Shoo.
So make sure you check that out. It is a jam-packed feed full of all kinds of rewinds and episodes from our past. Special episodes get dropped on there every now and then. But yeah, make sure you check out Cultober Plus. It is available everywhere you find your favorite podcasts. But I think that does it for us, Bailey. We're going to be back here on the 15th. And it was interesting that the Black Eyed Children is like a prominent urban legend of the 90s, because we're going to be going back to the 90s in our next episode here on the 15th with File 053. We're going to talk about El Chupacabra, one of my favorite cryptids, and it, interesting enough, is a 90s cryptid. So
That's awesome. That's
that's
awesome.
going to
How
be
old were
fun.
you in the 90s?
I was born in 90, so I just give it
Oh,
about a
nice. So
year.
you really did grow up in the 90s then?
Yes. Yeah, I'm definitely a 90s kid. That's why I have like an affinity for like VHS tapes and all that stuff. That was my childhood. So,
I was born in 96.
oh
So,
wow.
yeah.
So you're
I'm
like an
like,
early 2000s baby.
no.
That'd be like where
I-
you grew up, right? Like you didn't.
that is where I grew up. So listen, I am begrudgingly saying this, and I'm actually a Gen Z, but I identify as a millennial. So it's like I don't fuck with them. No, thank you.
uh,
But I think that does it for this episode. They're
Absolutely.
gonna listen. Yeah, they're gonna listen to us next when we talk about nightmares and chupacabra.
Yeah. We're going to be doing some more stuff here at Cultober. Make sure you guys keep an eye on at Cult Talk Net across the board: Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, all that stuff for all the Cultober goings on, because we're going to have all of our regular scheduled programming as well as a lot of special bonus stuff. So you're going to be able to keep up with that if you so choose to invite us into your homes for Cultober. Just check out those feeds for all the upcoming events. Bailey and I will be back here on the 15th. We're here every other Tuesday for Cult Talk Conspiracy. You guys can check out Cult of Lore every first and third Thursday of the month. And make sure you check out youtube.com/culttalknet for the full video experience because they work very hard on them, and it just adds that extra visual element to the episodes. And we will be back here every Friday this month over on Cultober Plus for very special Cultober movie reviews. We'll be reviewing just a plethora of horror classics, kicking off with A Nightmare on Elm Street. But I think that does it for us. I've been Ty.
I've been Bailey.
And until next time, question everything.